Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 237 of Kouryer podcast. Our today's guest is Miss Joyce Da Silva. She's a level artist at Donut Studios based in Montreal, Canada. And of course, before going to the questions, let me quickly mention that in the for contact section of the captions, you can find the ID to our Instagram account and also link to our art station. Our decision is to look at her posts and works that you can see above us in the YouTube version in bit more in depth and details with stuff like that, the breakdowns and all that good stuff are there, so you can check it out. And with that out of the way, how are you doing today?
I'm good. Thank you for the invitation.
Oh, my pleasure. Actually, fun fact for anyone who's listening. No, I'm not high on any drugs or something. My eyes are really bloodshot red. I'm very aware of that. Like the circumstances that's, really surrounds this episode is kind of interesting because I actually messaged her like about a week ago, and we've been, trying to set something up. But then suddenly, like today, I said, "Hey, want to do it today?" And she was like, "Yeah, sure." And I was in a cafe when I think I said that, so I kind of didn't expect as well. So I was like, all right, let me just get home, let me take a shower, and I quickly pop right back behind my laptop and record. So yeah. So here's the thing. The reason I'm mentioning that for anyone who's there are a lot of people who came on the podcast before and they were like super shy or say, oh no, I have to prepare. No, just go in. Like that's it. It's kind of like a professional thing, to be honest. So you try to not really get the stress about like the recordings and stuff like that. And the good thing about the podcast is not live. So I mean, because a lot of the guests actually, because I think you asked me that as well.
Yeah, I can be more relaxed.
Yeah, I mean, I get that because actually, I'm glad it's not live as well. You know why? Because before we tried to record, I kind of messed the intro up pretty badly. So yeah, I'm kind of glad that's not live as well. But yeah, all right. That was an interesting point about this episode. But now let me quickly jump into the first question and signature question of the podcast, which I started episodes with, which is give us a little introduction on how we got into the world of visual arts and design. Basically, tell us your story of how you became an artist, basically.
Okay, yeah. So that's a long story. Well, I get. I don't know how much detail do you want.
But, as much detail as you want. There's no limitation.
When I was a little kid, I really like video games. So that's something I always had with me. Like I like playing, but I have no idea that you could work making video games. So when I grew up, I also like science and astronomy and all of that. So I wanted to study aerospace engineering. So when I was in high school and I graduated, I went to Brazil to study aerospace engineering. I stayed there for a whole year. I won't say how long, but I didn't last a lot. I'll just say that. And something I noticed is that I really liked drawing as well. And it's something I really didn't give it a thought about, well, there's something I can do with this. So one of my best friends in Mexico, he started studying animation. And I was like, oh, okay, that's an interesting career. So I just stopped studying for engineering, and I realized I was using Photoshop. I was drawing. I discovered this subreddit called Photoshop Battles. So I really loved that, and I won like 2 times. So I was really motivated about that. Also, there was another subreddit called Reddit Gets Drawn. I was super like that. That was my motivation to draw better, and I could use the faces of people to practice. So I was like, well, what if I study like something related to this? Also, I was also the girl who edited videos, who liked recording, who likes doing all of that stuff. So everything was coming together, and. The thing is, in Mexico, I grew up in Mexico, so there are not a lot of animation school. So my friend told me that the school he was studying, it wasn't that good. So I was looking for other options, but my father was like, I just want you to study something. So he just got me into graphic design, to study graphic design. So that's what I studied. I studied graphic design. It was okay at the beginning because you could draw or do some interesting things like color theory, and so it was kind of artistic. But graphic design is not really an artistic side. It's more like more to a marketing side. So while I was studying, I started doing more research about animation, and I found a school in Guadalajara where I wanted to go there, but it was too expensive. There was another school in Mexico City, and it was also like too expensive. My father was like, you will need to go to another city, pay rent and school. And the school was telling us that we don't recommend you to work and study, so you can focus. So yeah, that wasn't really an option. So I just went ahead and studied graphic design, which I don't think it wasn't that bad. Because I could have like more. I could learn about composition, as I said, color theory, and all of that. Really, really helped me. And then I discovered you could do, because the career was called graphic design and animation. So, but the animation part, it was not like to animation films or video games. It was mostly to motion graphics, like that kind of part, like a graphic designer who can also do like a little bit of 3D modeling. But we weren't enough students, so they didn't open that part of the career. So we didn't have a professor or anything. It was online, and it was very like not up to date. So I remember a guy called, I think his name is called Mike Hermes in YouTube, and he's a guy who teaches 3D model and all of that. So I just started watching his videos and doing models. Then I discovered Sketchfab. Then I discovered ArtStation. And I was like, wow, there's like a whole career that you can do here. Because I wanted to do concept art as well. So my career was, I just wanted to finish, have the paper and all of this. But at the same time, I was researching what can I do, what can I study to get into that industry. And it was just the last years of my career was just looking at YouTube videos and courses like we talk about. And from that, I learned how to do 3D art, and I fell in love with it because it was easier for me to do that do concept art, that to draw. And with the Sketchfab, like you can see the 3D models and in 360 and all the styles. I really like that. So at school, we have one of the last year, we have a semester where we have to work in a company, and obviously the school didn't have like anything for animation. It was mostly like to go to work in to be a graphic designer. But while I was studying, I really hated that. I really hated being a graphic designer. So I tried my best. Like I really focused and learned the most that I could of 3D art to try to find a job or a studio in Mexico where I could do my what do you call it, like my, where you're a student and go to you don't really work. You don't really work full time.
Internships?
Yes, to do an internship. And so I uploaded some stuff that I was practicing on my ArtStation. And I was really lucky because there was this company in Cancun who was looking for 3D artists. And I was super happy because they talked with the school and everything worked out. And I went to Cancun to work there. I did 6 months of internship there. I met a lot of awesome artists in Mexico. Like, I started like unlocking this new world that I didn't knew it existed in Mexico. But sadly, the industry is not very stable, especially for video games. Animation, it's getting there, but for video games, it's very hard, like, to have a studio. So I could stay there for a year, and when I graduated from school, the company closed. So I was without a job, but it was okay because I already had 1 year of experience in video games, which was a lot at that time. A lot of people in the company had a lot more of experience, and they were finding other jobs. But for me, it was a lot harder because I was just graduating. I didn't have a lot of experience. And I spent those months doing 3D art. I discovered a Unreal Engine. So I just tried to do an environment in Unreal. It's a Japanese one I have and a Chinese one I have. Those two, I made it throughout those months where I was without a job. So then one of my friends who was working there in Cancun came to work here in Montreal. So I came to visit and I prepared my portfolio. And I went to a lot of video game events. And so one of those companies hired me, which was CyberConnect 2. They were a company. They did anime games. There I could work in a Kimetsu no Yaiba game and one game from Naruto. And the thing is, the two environments I had, one was Chinese and the other one was Japanese. So they made Japanese stuff. So I used Unreal Engine, so everything matched. I was learning Japanese, so they also asked me if I knew a bit of Japanese. So that really helped, and everything matched. And I got hired and came here to Canada. And after a while, I just changed company to the one I am right now, and that's how I made it.
All right, awesome. And actually, on your profile, I was kind of confused because you said I want to be a pilot astronaut. In the meantime, I make 3D art worlds and stuff.
Yeah.
So that kind of explains it all. And there's just a bunch of interesting stuff, about everything you said. Like, for example, how the industry in Mexico is not that strong, which is kind of interesting to me because there are a lot of Mexican artists, that really good artists,
Oh yes.
So that's kind of what surprised me a bit, how is it even possible to not have a studio especially you could easily in the country right now these days with the internet have an outsourcing studio in any country. So and that it's still, I don't know. There should be more studios,
There are some studios. There's one really big outsourced studio in Monterrey, but at the time, I think they weren't hiring. I know there are a lot in Guadalajara. At the time, I can think of 2 studios which are doing very good, but at the time, I didn't knew about them, or they weren't hiring. The talent is there, it's full of talented artists, in all Latin America, but it's really hard. I feel that the animation industry, it's a lot more stronger But for video games, I feel it's way more difficult to, you have to have enough money to have a company make a game, make it a success, or try to make games that you probably, it's not the games you really would love to do, but these are the games that will sell. And at the same time, so you can maintain your company and then make a game you will really like to do. Like it's very difficult, like to go and make a very big game and you're risking it all. It's a bit hard, but I know it's getting a lot better. This last, I was there in 2019 and 2020, where I was looking for a job. So that's 3 years ago, and now I can see like the industry is getting there. But something that happens is the same thing that happens to me. Like you have an artist, and there's not a studio where you can do what you want. So it's way easier, or to have like a better quality of life as well. Because in the city I grew up in Mexico, it's not like the safest one. So I also wanted to go to another place, or either another city of Mexico, or I mean, of course, Canada was like the thing I also wanted to do. So yeah.
Yeah, by unsafe you mean cartel level unsafe, or like?
No,
just...
that's that's the north part of the country. I'm from the center.
Oh.
It's called the state of Mexico. There's a lot of feminicide and yeah, like
not so fun stuff. Yeah,
not so fun stuff.
Yeah, but the other really interesting thing from your story is that our stories are really similar in a lot of senses. Like, what I mean by that is I had the same thing. I went to study mechanical engineering in the hopes of then later majoring in aerospace engineering because I loved robotics and like spaceships, and just I was like, yo, I'm gonna do that. But I didn't have any like role model or mentor to tell me that, hey, Ramtin, the reason you're like this is because of the art, the design aspect, which is like less than 5% of everything that's in the major.
Yeah, actually, what I discovered there, one of the reasons I left, is that I didn't really like being like engineer, because you really need to kind of love maths. Like, for example, for the art part, I mean, I do have to make the hours to get better, but at the same time, I really enjoy it. It comes natural. If I'm bored, I start doing some stuff. But with everything related to engineering and science, I really had to have a lot of motivation to do it, or have a lot of discipline to do it. What I liked was not the theoretical part. It was like, for example, being a pilot. Like, I really wanted to be a pilot, and that's not something an aerospace engineer do. So that's something they told me, and I actually tried to be a pilot after leaving the aerospace engineer career. But my parents wanted me, like, and I'm actually kind of glad, because being a pilot, it's also a bit of unstable. so yeah, it was kind of difficult, and yeah, in the end, I'm super glad I changed career.
I mean, later in life, you can always get your license, piloting license.
Yeah,
I guess.
that's why I still have it there. Like, I want to be a pilot, not an astronaut anymore, but I still would like to be a pilot. But
I mean,
it's super expensive as well, so I can be a pretty astronaut in a game.
I mean, no, I mean, you can even still be an astronaut in real life. I mean, sure, you might not be able to physically go into space, but spiritually you can go into space, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Like, there are like helpful ways, like things that could help you elevate your spiritual frequency, so you can, experience all the cosmos and even see the God, the man himself, so.
Whatever I want, yeah.
Yeah, so That was one interesting bit.
One thing I would like to do actually is to work or to help kind of a way the aerospace industry. Like, for example, they send missions to space, and in order to the general audience to get invested into that, you need to make like a video or animation, a game or something. So I don't know. It's not something I'm chasing, but that would be nice to do, like work with a space agency or something and do something for them. But yeah, it's not something I'm chasing, and I should. I don't know. But
yeah, actually,
just an idea. Yeah.
Yeah, actually, fun fact, like one of the in the first 20 episodes I ever did on a podcast, I had a guy, I think his name was James Trelly. He was like a main content creator and a video editor for NASA. So he did a lot of 3D stuff even for NASA. So, I mean, it's possible. I mean, why not? Like, there's a lot of space agencies all around the world who need, talented artists and people who can actually visualize the vision of their mission and the stuff like that. So never lose hope. Do your own stuff and see what happens. And
that would be cool. But at the same time, I'm like, I will need to model stuff like that. So at right now, I prefer way more like doing the type of video games I do than doing that. But yeah, that's an option.
Guess what I did today? I pre-ordered a Starfield from Bethesda. Do you know the game?
Oh, yes.
You can do that.
Yeah, Bethesda is here, and I remember they were working in that game. And I didn't apply. I don't know if I had the chance, but I didn't even try. Because I was like, there will be a lot of space stuff. I should have tried, actually. But to apply, but and I saw the trailer and I'm like, wow, this game, I already want to play it. Like,
yeah, I mean, hopefully it's not like a bug-ridden game, because a lot of early AAA releases are just it's just they put a lot of pressure on the artists and the team to get on crutch and just ship something else so they can later 10 days later patch all the bugs in a apology patch or something, which is the trend right now in most AAA industries. But I really hope that's actually the bugs aren't that really game breaking. But I mean, Bethesda games are majorly known for their bugs, let's be honest. Let's not kid ourselves. But I'm actually excited because it's like the first original new IP out of Bethesda in 25 years. So I'm really hyped to see, how it is. And actually, there's a lot of cameos from I don't want to spoil too much, but there are some even special cameos and Easter eggs from past games in this game as well. I'm just gonna say one because this one everyone knows at this point. Have you played Elder Scrolls Oblivion?
Yes.
The adoring fan. Do you remember him?
No.
No? Do you know? All right. That it's the little.
Yeah.
A spiky yellow-haired guy that when you get out of the arena starts chasing you everywhere. He's like a huge fanboy of your character because you win the arena, and he's just such an annoying character in the game.
Yeah.
And they brought him back in the format of this game. If you pick a certain perk in the beginning stat of the game in the menu, like a hero or something, an NPC really like him with all the mannerism. I think even the same voice actor, it starts chasing you everywhere in the Starfield game. So yeah, I'm really hyped for the game, and yeah, I actually pre-ordered myself for my birthday gift for myself. So yeah, I'm really excited to see how it is. It's gonna get released September 6th, but especially because I'm mentioning this because you seem to be a really fan of sci-fi and space stuff. So yeah, I think you'll enjoy it.
Yeah, I'm very excited for that game as well. But at the same time, they say the world will be very big. I'm just expecting that it doesn't feel a bit empty or a bit generic. They say it won't, but of course they have to say that. So I just hope it's like you said, it doesn't have a lot of bugs and that it's really good. So let's see.
Yeah, I mean, there's going to be a lot of problems with this. I mean, because, of course, I mean, in my personal opinion, I think Todd Howard just said that just as a title, like a bullet point to kind of market the game. Like there's 100 different planets you can go and blah blah blah. But to me, I don't want to go to 100 planets.
Yeah.
I don't want. I want a good single player experience. I mean, make 10 planets, but make them really good. But I mean, that's these days what's going to get people's attention, I guess. It's basically to show off their like technical ability and prowess of the studio mostly. Which I mean, if they pull it out, kudos to them. Honestly. And yeah, and here's the thing. If you with procedural generated planets and levels and stuff like that, especially if it gets expanded, your save file is going to get larger and larger and larger, so there's going to be a lot of bugs in that as well. I already can see that and sometimes when some save files get really large, they might get corrupted, which it's not fun. But the thing is, of course there's workarounds on how to do it, but there are not necessarily like ways that you should do it. Like, but here's the thing, like in Fallout games or Skyrim, when I was a kid, I used to overwrite on the same file all the time, which is a huge mistake because that leads to bugs. You should there's, let's say, 10 save slots on the game, all right, 1 2 3 4 5, and when you make your first playthrough, you pick the first one usually, and you keep saving on it as you go. But no, the correct way actually to do it in RPG games is to just keep saving on new files. I don't know how the magic goes, but it basically kind of prevents from a lot of bugs and prevents the corruption of save files. Basically, that's what I'm trying to say. So when you get like a project with that size, and imagine there's going to be some crazy people who want to explore, like they're going to be like records who's going to explore the most amount of stars, probably like hundreds of thousands. I don't know if that's going to be possible in the game, to be honest, with the scale they're promoting and advertising. But if it's possible, it's going to be a huge technical challenge, honestly.
Yeah, they've been working for that game for a while now, so let's see how it works. But as you said, I prefer them doing like 10 different planets and knowing that the cities they made were like really planned, and probably a little bit of another 5 that are a bit more procedural. But yeah, as you said, it's also like exploring the technology, so let's see how that turns out.
Yeah, definitely. And actually they did, Neo Atlantis was the name of the city they worked on, which is like they said it's the biggest city they've ever worked on in any game or IP, which is going to be really interesting. I hope and it's said to have the most amount of quests or stuff like that. So I don't know. I hope they really deliver on that. I honestly hope so. I really don't want to get disappointed. And like the thing with Bethesda is, like one of the things I have for myself is I want to like probably they're going to start working on Fallout 5 in 20 years or 15 years or something. So my goal is by the time that happens, I want to be able to get my portfolio to a level that I can join the team and work on Fallout 5. That's actually one of my long-term goals. If I don't get into a car accident or something and I'm still alive, I definitely would want to work on Fallout 5, to be honest, if that makes sense. So yeah.
It would be The Elder Scrolls 6, but
they're already...
As I said, already, or 7, I don't know.
Well, 7, yeah.
But at the same time, it's like I said, like I really like... I mean, I can go there and work for a while, but for an environment artist, I have like... I'm not a fan of medieval architecture or nature. So at the same time, I'm like, okay, I'll be so happy to work in this game, but from the long time, I wouldn't be that excited for me. But of course, I mean, if they call me, I'm like, yes, please.
All right. And well, in the title of in the beginning of the podcast, I mentioned that you're a level artist and also you're an environment artist as well, with, of course, based on the works that people can see above us. On YouTube versions, like not actually above us, Jesus. Like, I mean, in the YouTube version, when I edited it, like I posted like a demo reel of the guest's works there on the top. But yeah, like, I mean, your portfolio is pretty environment heavy, so it's kind of obvious that you're an environment artist, level artist. Yep. But now I want to ask you this. is actually kind of twofolded question. The first part is like, tell us how basically you stumble upon environment art specifically, not like other stuff, like not prop art or character art or I don't know. There's a lot of different disciplines, as you know. And my second part of the question is, how does your design process usually go anytime you want to start working on a new design project? Like basically, what does the structure of your pipeline look like? Like how do you go about like making environments basically?
Okay, so for the first question, I ended up in environment art kind of by not accident, but that's where life took me. Like those were the tutorials I started watching. I like characters. I also try characters, but I don't know. I really like the idea. The reason I like video games, it's because I like the immersion part of it. So I was really interested in creating an environment and being able to experience it, like to be inside it. That's something I really was searching to do. So that's why I ended up doing environment. Also in video games, it's at least for me, is the first thing I see, is the first thing I like or I admire. So that's why I ended up doing that. And after discovering Unreal as well, I like doing props. I think that's one of the things that really relaxes me, because I can spend all of my time like in little details and all of that. But with environment, it's so broad that I really like doing the lighting part, doing the level art part, discovering shaders where I'm not really good, but I love like experimenting with a lot of techniques. So environment art, it's super broad, and that's how I just ended doing environment. And the way I start, I just gather references. There's two ways I can go. If I see a concept I love, I just try to imagine how can I do that. I'm already stuck with Blender and Unreal Engine 5. So I don't have I already kind of familiar with the pipeline and all of that. For example, I want to do something new right now, and it has water, and I just watched a bunch of tutorials of how can I do water. No, right now I'm lucky to be working to amazing talented artists. So now I can ask them, like, I'm stuck here, like, how do I do? Because, like learning by yourself, it can be super difficult, or you can pick up techniques that are not really that good, and you don't have enough experience to judge it. So that's a plus to be able to reach someone. And yeah, and I just gather a lot of references. I immediately go to Unreal and I start blocking, trying to put the camera, trying to find the angles I like, only with the blocking, a little bit of lightning to try to tint a bit the scene and try to get a look of how it will look at first. What I do, I don't know if it's a good thing, but I try to tackle first the difficult parts just to see if I'm able to do it. Like, I don't know if it's trees, if it's water, if it's wind. I don't know. I like to play around it. And once I'm a bit familiar with the technique, I start creating the rest, because I just have to do plan ahead if I'm going to use trim sheets, if I'm going to use modular pieces, try to figure out the architecture, try to put it all together and have all my blocking. And then in the end, I just finish to model all the props. But by now, I probably already have a lining I also do another scene. This is something I did in my last company and in this company. Like I have my environments with my lighting, so I can kind of see where it's going. Sorry, but I also have another scene where I can test my lighting with my neutral lighting and see how it actually looks, like how the prop looks, how my textures looks in the engine. And so in the end, I just finished doing all the props and just finish it, all the effects, right? If I want wind, if I want fog or dust particles and the camera movements, and that's process which I'm still refining. I'm not I'm not super good at it right now. I kind of like struggle a bit with some parts, but it has worked for me so far.
All right, awesome. And all right, who are some of your favorite artists and designers that have inspired you the most?
Artists from the start. I mean, I will start from the beginning, like in Mexico, because the artists I met in the first company like were really, really inspired for me. They were my first lead was called Zaragoza. I forgot his name actually. Alex Zaragoza. And he has a company called Cast and Play in Mexico. There's another guy called Jos Gonzalez. They also have a company called Ink and Lightworks. So those were like my first, like, wow. There's another girl called Itzel Martinez. She was also like really good doing characters. I started like we talked before, like in Mexico or Latin America, it's like full of super awesome artists. There's another one called Manny Salguero. And when I discovered Station or coming to Canada, I started to discover more artists that were specific for the environment art in games. So the one of the first one was Thiago, because I discovered one of his courses he had with Unreal, and I discovered his work, and I've been following since. And I'm super amazed. There's another guy in Gearbox, but I'm really bad at names, so I feel so bad. But he has also really good art. There's another guy also in Gearbox called Jimmy. I'm really bad at names. Actually, I can try to see here. Jimmy Malachier. I think he's French, so I'm sorry. He has stylized art. He do textures. Who else? I don't have more mind right now. I'm really bad with names. Well, I other artists I liked are from Blender. Grease pencil artists, which is like my last environment was made there. His name is, he's also French, so I'm sorry, the Deuce. I don't know.
Wait, I think I know his YouTube channel. Yeah. It's something like that. There's also another famous Grease pencil artist, the Kevin Ram, something like that. Do you know him?
I don't know. There is another girl called Sophie Jantak. I won't try because, but yeah, she draws in grease pencil and the Deuce. He does 3D, and I'm super amazed by what he does.
Yeah, like grease pencil is really awesome. I want to try it as well soon, like as like a fun experiment for myself. Like it's really helpful when it comes to like that's really unique stylus texturing, kind of look that gives you like a scene or acid. Like grease pencil is amazing. Like I really want to get into it soon as well. And let's see, what are you working on right now that you can tell? Actually, all right, let me tell you something interesting. I think the first work of you that I saw was the Japanese alleyway somewhere, but I forgot. But what caught my eye recently that your actually grease pencil posts, it was popping off everywhere on Twitter, LinkedIn. Like, that's when I said, wait, I think I know her. I've seen her works before. And yeah, I was like, yeah, oh shit, I probably should invite her to the podcast. And so, want to explain a little bit, on what are you doing right now, aside from the projects you can talk about, and also tell us a little bit about your experience working on the grease pencil scene as well.
Right now, I'm working in Donut company, which is a French company. They made Life is Strange. That's like the most famous one. Also people from there, like they're artists I love, like my art director, his name is Sam Bradley. His art is so cool, and I could mention all of them, but with grease pencil I discovered the tutorial of the Deuce in YouTube. And because I model, I do UV maps and all of that all day, 8 hours a day. So when I discovered that technique, I fell in love because you draw in 3D, but it's 3D. So that really helps with the perspective, and you can combine it with shaders, aligning, and like for me, it was like, wow, I need to try this technique. And that I just experimenting a lot with that. It's kind of new, so I'm thinking of making some tutorials in Spanish, because there's not a lot in Spanish, and because the way I did that last environment was, his tutorial was the first step. Like I had to watch like 20, take 20 techniques of different parts and combine it with my own knowledge. So it's really, really interesting. And yeah, people seem to like it.
All right. And what area beside the area you're working on right now, which is of course related to art and creative stuff, would you be interested to explore and learn in the future, or do in the future? Like basically, what other non-art related stuff you have going on in your life that you want to do or you're doing? Like completely not related, by the way.
Not related to 3D art?
Art in general.
Art in general. I think everything I do is a bit related to art. Like I like to play instruments. So I like to make covers, or I'm trying to have a band here in Canada. Like trying to focus more on that part. I have French, where we talked about before, and it's taking time as well. I'm also trying to get to a more physical side, because I'm always sitting in everything I do. So I was thinking, I swim a lot, I walk a lot. I used to do taekwondo, but I stopped because of work. When I arrived here, I tried to get back to it, but it was mostly kids. So I don't know if I can have the time to get back to it and have enough time to practice to the level I was. I don't know. I'll probably try to get to the gym or something so I can move my body.
Yeah, that's actually a good idea. And yeah, taekwondo is weird because like taekwondo and karate, these two, like as an adult, it's going to be really hard to find actually gyms that have like adult classes and students, because it's mostly like, kids, like Jesus, like. But I mean, on the other side, like, if you go to Muay Thai class or wrestling school, like they're mostly adults. It's reverse, So if you're, willing to get a little bit more violent, I guess those routes are good. I mean, jiu-jitsu is always a great option, by the way. Like, I used to train like jiu-jitsu for 3 years here, but then I stopped. COVID, a lot of stuff happened. Yeah. But I'm trying to get back to, which, yeah, kind of not really possible here. But yeah, like jiu-jitsu is also a great option as well. It's not super hard on the body, and it's also like it's really fun, in a way. Like what I mean by fun is that it's like physical chess. So the problem solving is real. You need to actually think before you get checkmated, and it's not like made up rules by some sensei like in China who made the traditional ways of how to do this sport. No, it's actually like the rules are based on physiology and like science. Like if you don't go by them, you lose, and that's the beauty of it. That's why I like it. It's a no bullshit sport to me, and yeah, it's useful in most cases, for everyone. So yeah, that's a great option as well.
Yeah, I could try to look that up. The one I found was kickboxing as well, because I really liked the kicking part.
I see.
But what I liked about Taekwondo is that it was not just the aggressive, you could say, part of the battle. I don't know the words in English, but it's also like the mental part. Like you have to do like you have to learn like really well the technique, and you have these forms. I don't know if that's a word in English, where you have to learn all of this. It's kind of like a dance, but I love that equilibrium, and it felt a bit like school. So I was interested in that part, but as I said, it's also like very time demanding. So
yeah,
probably something more relaxed. I'm not that young. So.
Yeah. How about what was the name of the sport? It was actually a Brazilian sport, capoeira or something like that.
Capoeira.
How about that?
Yeah,
you should like that.
Yeah, I could try.
Yeah, it's really interesting. Like, the reason I like that because the people who actually practice and are really good at it, like their movements are so fluid and it's like just so fun to watch, And yeah, it has an art aspect to it as well, like because of course it's dancing mixed with martial arts. But yeah, martial arts are a really fascinating subject for me, like honestly. And well, we've reached the final question and section of the podcast, which is called Time Capsule. All right, let me explain. Imagine you're in a escape pod of a spaceship, all right? And the doors are locked. You're alone. You're about to get ejected into space. And there's no way to save you, all right? So these are going to be your last moments. And there's a countdown timer above your door that, is counting down to 0. And then at 0, it just you get sent to space, and no one will ever hear or see you or anything like that. Now, in that situation, like before the countdown turns to 0, there's like a console. You can record some voice logs or video logs for the people that might discover what happened to you. And this is like basically your last opportunity to say anything you want, basically your last opportunity ever to express yourself. So in that moment, what would you say from yourself, a human being, to another human being who might listen to that log at any point of time in future? Like, yeah. What do you have to say?
Well, that's a very hard question. Oh, God. I don't know. If I don't have enough time to think, I would just say, like, nothing really matters, like, in the end. Wait, related to art? Does it have to be...
Sorry, I had to untangle my microphone for a second. No, actually completely non-art related. Like, here's the thing. It's going to be your last minutes. Yes, last minutes you could ever say anything, and you're just going to talk about art. Funny enough, some of the guests of the podcast actually did that, and I was kind of annoyed, but I didn't say anything in the end. But, yeah.
What? Okay. Yeah, so I was saying nothing really matters, so just try to enjoy those little moments that life gives to you, because sometimes it can be really hard. You can get like really overwhelmed by everything, because your life is everything to you, and you are constantly trying to get be happy, trying to get a better quality of life and all of that. But I think it's also important to enjoy like the little things that life gives to you. Like find the beauty in, I don't know, the stars or whatever you like. And if you are lucky enough to find your passion, what you're passionate about, just try to do that.
Awesome.
That's
and yeah,
a really hard question.
that's the point of it, because here's the thing. A lot of the guests of the podcast, always tell me, hey, could you send me like a list of the questions that you might ask before the podcast? And I'm like, no. Do you know why? Because if I gave them the questions before the podcast, I couldn't be able to put them on the spot with these type of questions, Like another question, like, your favorite artists and designers that I ask you. You were kind of having a hard time answering, right? But you came up with your brain came up with some names. Though that's actually the real answer I wanted. Not the answer you researched and made like, every single bullet point. No. Even with this, especially with this question, it's a really hard question to answer because the situation is really, normal people don't really think about this stuff, this type of situations. But when you put it into the spot, your brain has to come up with an answer. And you're probably afraid that, I don't want my answer to be cliche, but you have to say something. So whatever you're going to say in that moment is going to be a real answer based on everything you ever experienced in life. So I think your answer was actually really good as well, to be honest, because you're worrying about that deadline, you're worrying about that thing, you're worrying about the result of that test while that life is happening around you. You're missing out on everything for the result, like something, in the future, which I get it. Like, I'm not going to pretend like I'm some sort of Zen master or something like that. I get worried. I get like that too. Sometimes I have to remind myself that as well. But yeah, try to enjoy the little things, Make your...
Yeah, because it's also a balance. And that's something I learned also during this pandemic, that if all days are good, like all days start feeling generic, so being sad is kind of also like a part of happiness. So it's like really important to just feel everything at the same time, which can be a bit contradictory with I just said, like nothing really matters and all of that. But I don't know, it's life, it's super complex in the end.
Yeah, and with that being said, we've reached the end of this episode. Thank you so much for coming by. Where can people contact you if they had any questions? Is there an Instagram account okay?
Yeah, sure.
All right, awesome. So the Instagram account is linked down below, and it's also tagged in the post on Instagram if you're seeing the post on Instagram page of the podcast as well. And as always, if there's any comments, critiques, or suggestions, you can leave them down in the comment section down below. And as always, stay safe and take care, everyone. Till next episode. Bye-bye.